I was born in July of 1995, and you know what that means. I'm old. I think we should talk about it. But before we go any further, I just want to remind you to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. So here are my honest thoughts about turning 30 as a woman. Meh, I'm fine with it. I feel way better now than I did 10 years ago when I was dealing with Lyme disease. I've even taken up running, which is what the rest of this video is about. That's right, I tricked you into watching it with a clickbaity title. So why do I like running? I mean, I'm not exactly saying anything new when I say that, oh, running is good for you, it improves your mood, but running really has just done so much for my physical and mental health, and I just think it's a lot of fun. Let's get one thing out of the way. I'm not naturally very athletic. I'm not even particularly healthy. I like Culver's, I like beer. I recently discovered the Quick Trip limited time Chunka-Lunka cookie. I thought that was pretty good. There are definitely things I could work on in that regard, but anything is better than nothing. At my old job, I used to lease apartments to college students, which meant leading tours of 3 to 4 story buildings that didn't have elevators. One of the first signs that my endurance was getting better was that I could walk up all these stairs while having this conversation about cosigners and security deposits without even missing a beat. Like, I didn't run out of breath, and that was pretty cool. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I'll tread carefully here. All I have to go off of is my own experience. But I will say, I'm a very anxious person. I always have been. I always find something to worry about. And running really helps burn off that nervous energy. Is it the endorphins? Is it being out in the sunshine? Or is it that running is just painful and unpleasant enough that it takes my mind off whatever I was worrying about before? Who's to say? But it works, so I'll keep doing it. I'm an introvert, but being around people is good for me. When I'm out running, I pass other runners, kids on their bikes, people walking their dogs. I'm also just more familiar with my town because of the jogs that I've done around the various neighborhoods. I'm familiar with basically every residential street in town. I pay more attention to when the lilacs bloom and the cottonwoods lose their fluff, and when the mulberries are ripe and I can eat them. This doesn't really have anything to do with running directly, it just has to do with getting outside, but running is a very good excuse to get outside. Another thing that running has going for it is that it's relatively cheap, all things considered. The important thing is that you have a pair of tennis shoes that are good for running, fit you, and are not totally destroyed, because if they're too worn down and trashed and they don't have any cushioning, that's a very good way to injure yourself, and you don't want to do that. So make sure you have good shoes and also a good sports bra if you're a woman, but other than that, you can pretty much just run in what you've got. I mean, maybe don't run in jean shorts, but you know, don't overthink it too much. And yeah, you could pay for a gym membership so that you have access to a treadmill for when it's snowing or 95 degrees out. And you can buy those fun little like waffle energy things. I'll insert a photo here. Like, those are cool, but you really don't need to go out and spend a bunch of money. Another perk about running is that you get to meet a lot of cool animals. Now, I talked earlier about how you meet people walking their dogs. Sometimes you even meet people walking their cats. You see that a lot more. I mean, Mitzi and Sparrow could never, but there are some cats out there that like people and going on walks. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about wild animals. I've seen deer, I've seen snakes, turtles, and a possum. Let me tell you the story about Ivy the possum. So it was a few years ago in November, and since I was working a 9-to-5 job and didn't want to get up early, that meant that I was doing some of my runs in the dark with a headlamp, safety first. And so one day I was out going for a run with my headlamp in the dark, and I see this little animal scurry across the bike path. A very distinct little pink tail. I was like, it's a possum! And so I pick up the pace, and the possum sees me, and the possum is less excited to be friends with me than I am to be friends with him. He runs off the bike path and into the weeds, and I follow after him, and he stops, looks up at me, and I get to meet a possum. I named him Ivy because he ran into the poison ivy. I didn't want to scare him too bad. I didn't like pick him up or anything. I let him go on his way. But then for a few more nights that week, anytime I would go for a run in the same area, there he was. Every time he was just like a little bit farther and farther away, like out toward the country. Like he was slowly making his way away from me. But it was just very special. I got to see a possum, and I wouldn't have ever met him if I hadn't been out for a run that evening. Possums. Whoa, didn't see you there. Alright, I couldn't at least shoot some of this not running, and apologies in advance if the motion makes you a little pukey. Okay, so for the last point I want to make about why I run goes back to why I started in the first place. So, although I got into distance running in my mid-20s, I've always had kind of a thing for long walks. If you hadn't noticed, might come as a shock to you. And during the pandemic, I was going on a lot of long walks, and one day I just decided to jog a little bit. And yeah, I was still pretty out of shape, but it wasn't as hard as I thought. It's like, maybe I could get into running. It's kind of fun. Cover more ground in the same amount of time, which is pretty cool. And I don't know, a switch flipped that day, and I kind of never stopped. It also helps that around this time, Kelsey was running cross country for college.
Go Kelsey!
And Nathan also started getting into jogging around this time. And well, I didn't have much of a choice then. Like, I could not be the slowest poke rant kid. Not on my watch, folks. So yeah, is competition with my siblings the one thing keeping me going? Am I just running out of spite? Because Nathan beat me in a half marathon once a year and a half ago, and I vowed to never let that happen again? Maybe. Being competitive is not a bad thing. Not that I'm competitive. Nathan's competitive. I'm not competitive.